If you fall, then stand up. Imagine a little child learning to walk. The child stumbles, falls, and sometimes cries. But what does the child do next? They pull themselves up and take another step, not looking back at the ground, but forward with wide eyes and a determined heart. Life, in so many ways, is like learning to walk again and again. Falling isn't the end. It's part of the journey. The important thing is not that we fall, but that we rise each time we do. Proverbs 24 verse 16 reminds us, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes." This verse tells us that even the strongest among us will fall, but we are called to get up, to keep going, to stand up again. Falling is not failing. Many of us see falling as failure, but God sees it differently. Each time we fall, we have a chance to learn, to grow, and to rely on His strength. When Peter was walking on water, he lost faith for a moment and began to sink. But instead of giving up, he called out, "Lord, save me." And Jesus reached out His hand and pulled him up, Matthew 14 verses 30 to 31. This teaches us that even when we lose our way, God is always there, ready to help us stand up again. Life is full of falls, moments when we don't succeed, when we feel weak, when we're discouraged. But falling is not the end. The real danger isn't in the fall itself. It's in staying down and giving up. We all face setbacks, but our strength is proven when we rise. God's strength in our weakness. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, Paul speaks of a powerful truth that keeps us going even in tough times. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." When we fall, we're reminded of our human limitations. We see our weaknesses, but it's precisely in these moments of weakness that God's strength shines through. He doesn't ask us to stand up by ourselves. He gives us the strength to do it. Falling is sometimes God's way of teaching us to lean on Him. We may fall due to our own mistakes, but God can use those mistakes to build us up. He molds us, shapes us, and brings out the best in us when we're willing to rise again with His help. Stand up with purpose and faith. When you stand up after a fall, you're not just physically rising, you're rising with a new mindset. Every fall can be a lesson. Maybe it's a lesson about patience, perseverance, or humility. God doesn't allow challenges in our lives to discourage us. He allows them to build us up. James 1 verses 2 to 4 encourages us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Standing up after a fall is a step toward maturity and strength. It is through this perseverance that we become complete. Choosing resilience over defeat. Choosing to stand up each time we fall is a choice to be resilient. Resilience is about bouncing back, no matter how many times life knocks us down. Remember that each time you choose to stand up, you're growing stronger and becoming a light to others. People around you see your determination, and your courage encourages them to stand up too. Your resilience becomes a testimony of God's grace in your life. Jesus told His disciples, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." John 16 verse 33. If Jesus has overcome the world, then we too have the power, through Him, to overcome every fall, every setback, every disappointment. Keep your eyes on the goal. In Philippians 3 verses 13 to 14, Paul says, "But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." The key to standing up after a fall is to keep our eyes on the goal, not on the ground. Don't dwell on the mistakes or the falls. Look forward, focus on the vision God has for you, and press on. God has a purpose for your life, a unique mission that only you can fulfill. Falling is just part of the journey. Each fall is a step in your training. Stand up and press forward, knowing that God is working through every stumble and every rise. Standing up together. In moments when we struggle, we're not alone. Ecclesiastes 4 verses 9 to 10 says, Two are better than one if either of them falls down. One can help the other up. Surround yourself with people who can help you stand up. When we walk together in faith, we strengthen one another. Be someone who lifts others up and lets others lift you up too. Standing up doesn't mean doing it all on your own. It means relying on God and the people He's placed in your life. Don't fear the fall. Remember that every fall is a chance to rise again, stronger, wiser, and closer to God. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 encourages us. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. When you fall, trust in God, for He will make a way. So, stand up. Keep standing, keep trusting, and know that God is with you every step of the way. Embrace the lessons in the fall. Every fall holds a lesson within it. Often we stumble because God is teaching us something new, something we might not understand in the moment. Each time we rise again, we rise with new knowledge, new strength, and a deeper faith. Romans 5 verses 3 to 4 tells us, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character. And character, hope." Think of how a tree grows. When storms come, its roots dig deeper, seeking strength beneath the surface. Similarly, each fall pushes our spiritual roots deeper into faith and reliance on God. If we never experienced a fall, we might remain shallow, untested, and weak. But God allows challenges so that our spiritual roots grow strong, deeply anchored in His promises. Don't let fear keep you down. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles that keeps us from standing up after a fall. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment. All these fears can weigh us down. But Isaiah 41 verse 10 reassures us, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." When you feel overwhelmed by fear after a fall, remember that God is right there, holding you up. There, rise with faith, not by sight. When we fall, it's easy to focus on the setback and to get caught up in our doubts. We might ask ourselves, why did this happen? Why can't I seem to get it right? But God calls us to live by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7. Faith reminds us that there is more to our story than this momentary fall. Faith calls us to trust that God has a plan and that every setback is a setup for a comeback. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. His life was filled with falls, sold by his brothers, thrown into prison, forgotten by those he helped. Yet Joseph kept his faith, trusting that God's purpose would prevail. Eventually, God lifted him up to a position of power in Egypt, where he saved his family and many others from famine. Genesis 41. Joseph's story shows us that even when we can't see the bigger picture, God is working through every fall, every struggle, and every moment of pain. Strength comes from standing up. Each time we rise after a fall, we become stronger and more resilient. Standing up isn't just about getting back on our feet. It's about learning to rely on God's strength rather than our own. Isaiah 40 verse 31 tells us, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." When we place our hope in God, He renews our strength. Standing up becomes less about our personal willpower and more about God's sustaining grace. By His power, we are able to rise higher than before, equipped with resilience that carries us through future challenges. Seeing the bigger purpose in every fall. Sometimes, our falls are actually divine redirections. What we see as failure, God might be using to guide us in a new direction. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." This reminds us that God is always guiding us, even if it means allowing us to fall so that we can find the path He has prepared. When you fall, ask yourself, what could God be teaching me? How might this experience shape me for something greater? Each fall is a part of God's master plan, even if we can't see it yet. Trust that He is using every setback to shape you into the person He created you to be. Let go of past mistakes and embrace new beginnings. One of the hardest parts of standing up after a fall is letting go of the past. We tend to replay our mistakes, dwelling on what we could have done differently. But dwelling on past failures only weighs us down. Philippians 3 verses 13 to 14 encourages us to forget what is behind and press on toward the future. The act of standing up requires a forward focus, not a backward glance. In the same way that a runner in a race looks toward the finish line, we must fix our eyes on what lies ahead. Our mistakes are stepping stones, not anchors. Let go of the past and embrace each new day as a fresh start to walk in God's purpose. Encouragement for each step forward. When you're feeling weak or discouraged, remember God's words to Joshua, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Joshua 1 verse 9. God commands us to be strong and courageous, but He doesn't expect us to muster this courage on our own. He promises to walk with us every step of the way. When you rise up, even if you're unsure, God is beside you, steadying you with His strength and grace. Your courage grows not because of your own strength, but because of God's unwavering presence. Stand up, knowing you are never alone. Your story of rising can inspire others. Every time you stand up, you're creating a story of resilience and faith that can inspire those around you. Others see your strength and are encouraged to rise from their own falls. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Your journey, with all its falls and rises, can bring hope to someone else. Sometimes, God uses our hardships to be a light for others. Think of the times you've seen someone overcome a setback. It inspires hope, it builds faith. By standing up, you're showing others that with God's help, they too can rise. A prayer of strength for each fall. When you fall and feel too weak to stand, turn to God in prayer. Pray for the courage to rise, for the wisdom to learn, and for the strength to keep moving forward. Psalm 73 verse 26 gives us words of comfort. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Ask God to renew your spirit, to fill you with His strength. Let Him be the foundation you stand on, especially in times when you feel too weary to rise. Remember, His strength is sufficient for you. Final call to action. Stand up and keep going. No matter how many times you fall, keep standing up. Embrace the journey, knowing that every step, even the stumbles, is a part of God's plan for you. When you stand up, you proclaim your faith in God's purpose, and you show the world that His strength is greater than any fall. As you walk this path, may you find comfort in the words of Psalm 37 verses 23 to 24. Stand up and keep going, for the Lord is upholding you every step of the way.